This is the Ziigaat X Hangout Audio Odyssey 2. It's premium, expensive, and quite frankly, I would say that this sounds really good. But I don't think it's for everyone, not just because of the price tag that these come with, but because I don't think it's what you and I want, nor does it feel unique enough to warrant the price that they come with. Why? Because I don't know if you've heard that, but as the saying goes, if everything is special, then nothing is. And I say that because although I like these a lot, I'm also aware that IEMs are starting to sound, look, and feel redundant, especially in these higher price ranges that, mind you, are labeled as what's worth it by a lot of reviewers in this hobby, funnily enough, when in fact the actual budget tier IEMs are out there shaming IEMs in the $100+ range in accessories, all while providing and including tuning that's actually more than good enough for the vast majority of people. That said, I'm here to tell you exactly what you should expect for the $250 or 15,000 peso price tag and let you know who is the Odyssey 2 for, then tell you if it's actually going to be worth the price from a value perspective, as coming from a kid who used to watch reviews and wondered, when am I gonna be rich enough to buy these? Well, knowing what I know now, you need to know that good is not always going to be expensive and vice versa. And quite frankly, the price that you pay for doesn't always feel right once you get the actual product. And then I'm telling you this as the Odyssey 2 has been sent by Ziigaat, but you should know that I never sell out because you came here to know nothing but the truth. Here's the proof. Alright, the Odyssey 2 feels premium in a lot of ways, I said that before, but what exactly does that mean? Well, starting with the build, shape, and comfort, the metal housing at a weight of 6 grams, height of 24 millimeters, top width of 19 millimeters, depth of 14.8 millimeters plus a nozzle lip diameter of around 6.2 millimeters is quite comfortable even after a good 2 hours of use, despite being one of the biggest IEMs that I personally have, which is probably due to the design sticking out more than something like Ziigaat Lush, where these tends to hang out inside of my ears more, touching more of my ears for more time. And then to add to the premium feel is this astonishing ocean waves looking faceplate plus the accessories, at least for the most part, where the full leather case is big, structured, and lined with a very soft material similar to how a dead cat filter feels like. And then ear tips are plentiful. You get 3 pairs of small, medium, and large clear plus black liquid silicone ear tips like latex, 1 pair of these very nice foam ear tips present in I believe all Ziigaat products, 2 sets of replacement filters, and a modular cable. But that's kind of where it starts getting bad, because if I ask you, would you prefer colors for ear tips or would you want variety for ear tips? Personally, I want variety, and I say that because despite including 6 ear tips, those are essentially the same tips in different colors of small, medium, and large sizes. I'm talking same bore size, same length, same height, and the same materials, again latex. Then if you're any other person in the world who's buying a good sounding expensive earphone, well, you probably want to bring it with you everywhere safely, right? I know I would, but sadly the case is not really pocketable. It's thick and bulky to the point that I just rather use the Luscious case, since those keeps the IEMs protected while being small enough to be, well, pocketable. And lastly is the cable. What are those? It's thin, color is weird, and it just feels very cheap. Although, yeah, sure, it's modular and cables don't really affect sound quality unless impedance is high enough to introduce coloration, but come on, is this really the best they can do? And I ask that question because if you're not offering that anything that's all too special within the accessories and overall appearance, you have to do it in both the driver configuration and the tuning. But I don't think this is unique enough to be sought after, in the sense that they are tuned very closely to the Crinear Daybreak. But before that, I want to know what you think about the Odyssey 2. Is it something that you've been looking at prior to this review? Are you debating on if whether or not this is actually worth the price for you? Or did you just wanted to watch a review because why not, right? In which case, make sure to sub since we're close to 2,000 subscribers. Alright, going back to how closely they're tuned with the Daybreaks, Think of it like this. Rice is rice, but they have like different textures similar to how Japanese rice is sticky, while something like plain white rice isn't as sticky. This is similar to drivers outputting the 800 Hz frequency as 800 will be 800 regardless of the IEM. But the way they execute the same frequency will be different if you use different drivers, even if their gain level is similar. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because these two are also similar in the configuration aspect, where both uses a single dynamic driver for the bass, two balanced armature drivers for the mid-range, and a driver that acts as a tweeter for both the treble and air regions, with the difference being that the Odyssey 2 uses a branded Knowles driver for everything, plus a Knowles 33518BA driver that acts like a tweeter for the set, while the Daybreaks use a microplanar. So what? Well, knowing that the configuration closely matches in terms of like the drivers in functionality and form, well, not necessarily in terms of like the microplanars one, but you get the gist. The biggest difference will come from the tuning. And I want you to look at this. Do you think this is one IEM with channel imbalance? If you thought this is a graph for just one IEM, no one will blame you, since they're that close. What you're looking at now is the sub-bass to mids of both the Daybreaks and the Odyssey 2, where the real difference starts in the upper mids to air region. This means that both can be classified as bright, vocal forward, and has a good amount of sub-bass extension. However, that's where the topic of texture actually comes into play, because going back to the tweeters, I described the Daybreaks as having a grainy sound for the higher frequencies, but not here in the Odyssey 2. I would say that these are actually more in line to somewhat smoothened BA timbre, which essentially just means they have the characteristic clinical and like somewhat artificial sound of a balanced armature driver, but downplayed enough to still have that higher sense of detail without being tiring to listen to, which just essentially translates to like songs that are supposed to sound open and wide, say something like London Music Works Test Drive, to actually sound, well, open and wide, all while being able to present multiple genres easily and enjoyable even when shuffling through different tracks. Then, while we're on the topic of like shuffling through different tracks, I'm the type of listener who'll go from orchestra pieces on one moment, then to Billie Eilish and 50 Cent on the other, on which if we're talking bass-focused melodies on songs like the one present in 50 Cent's In the Club, well, I'm happy to report that the Odyssey 2 has the bass. It hits lower and harder than say something like the Daybreaks due to the more subdued upper mids in combination with like the 170Hz bump, which gives the low sounding drum machines that heaviness and weight that is pretty fun to listen to. And it's honestly really nice since I can also enjoy these while commuting, and bass doesn't really get drowned out in the busy Manila traffic or bass boosted tracks like these that are played, well, in chipneys. Now, talking about the mid-range, do you like vocals? This is something like the times you want her to sound really good for you, but you want to go ahead and upgrade. Well, if you answered yes, then this might actually probably be something that you should consider as your endgame piece. The mids on the Odyssey 2 are forward in the sense that, like, if you've listened to Goo Goo Dolls' Tiny Desk concert, it sounds as if the lead singer's mic is turned up higher than the usual, where like they sound particularly emphasized for like in this version of Iris, and absolutely goosebumps inducing in Church Studios' version of Adele's like When We Were Young, which would already be worth my praise and recommendations if they weren't literally $80 more than the Crinear Daybreaks, which is a problem. Why? Well, that's because another factor that makes these so much more expensive for the end consumer is going to be the source that they need. These have a quad bridge configuration, meaning despite these being at an efficient 105 decibel sensitivity rating and 20 ohm impedance level, which actually should mean that they should be able to be powered by just about any 3.5mm jack, you'll still need to get a DAC amp like the JM6 Pro to get the most out of them, which is in hindsight like relatively cheap, but getting that increases the price of the entire package to around $270. So, well, you really have to be considering this as a one and done for it to be worth the price. I'm talking 1 IEM for music, movies, editing, probably even monitoring like the one that I'm doing right now, if you can guarantee to leave this in a case with silica balls to prevent humidity-induced damage over time, and gaming, since technicals wise, despite imaging like not being the best, you can still use these properly just like any other audio device in stereo for competitive esports titles just like Valorant with decent success. Then in terms of soundstage, pitch. It's not uptight or up your ears, meaning you actually get a good sense of like distance and depth from horizontal and vertical sound cues like in games just like Batman Arkham Knights. Plus, speed feels fast in such a way that like fast drum segments like the one in Playing God by Polyphia doesn't have like the drums lingering long enough to affect the guitar harmonics, which contributes to the separation and detail retrieval very well, resulting in a feeling of you don't have to be looking for any hidden details to know that they're present, but they're also not like up your face. So it adds to the whole detailed yet non-fatiguing approach that they offer, which wraps this IEM up in a well-deserved B+ tier. Yes, that's in the same tier as the CCA Phoenix, as though they're not bad. No, like, matter of fact, I would say that the entire package of this is actually well done and they sound really enjoyable to listen to, but with a hefty price tag of $250, you got to offer something more than just like good enough in terms of like the accessories and tuning, where these sound so similar to a lot of IEMs with the GM1 or like the IEF 2025 preference tuning. So if you've heard one of them, you practically heard all of them, and I'll only be recommending this to anyone who doesn't actually own an IEM with the new meta tuning. Alright, thank you very much Ziigaat for sending these out for review. This has been again the Odyssey 2. My name is Charles and goodbye.